Our journey together during the Simple Imagine Manifest System workshop series. A little over 7 weeks ago, we started our imagining and manifesting journey together. And in today's workshop, we will review the steps we have taken and what we've learned. One of my desires is that I hope the trainings have helped you to reach within and connect with the deeper levels of yourself, your I amness, wherein you will find your true guidance, peace and joyfulness that has always been waiting for you. Let's review workshop number 1. The first technique we learned was the power of setting clear intentions. I shared my intentions for this workshop series and you set your intentions. We then worked to come up with a suitable desire, objective to use for this workshop. Not just any desire, but a life-transforming one. To find our desire, we examined our life to see if there were any burdensome problems we desired removed. Was there something missing that when we manifested it would make our life more complete, or perhaps we desired achievement in a specific area of life? Having chosen a desire to work with, we then worked to turn that into an imaginary experience. We learned that we have to change our concept of self in order to manifest a new reality. We cannot take our old version of ourselves into a new desired reality. Neville Goddard often refers to the Bible quote, "Let the dead bury the dead," and it's about letting go of the old stories of our life so as to embrace and welcome and assume the new. We then did a closed eye imagining session, and our homework was to come up with a desire and to come up with an imaginary experience for that desire. To help us get ideas, we read the book of success stories and testimonials. Workshop number 2. At the beginning of the workshop, we looked at a couple of simple and powerful ways to help keep our focus on our desires. The first was to stop focusing on what we don't want by doing immediate and negative experiences fast. And the second way is to invest our focus, time and energy in the moment and into what we desire to bring into our lives. We also learn to fill our mind with all that is good, and the old truth-teaching books are an amazing source for that good news. We were reminded of the quote from the Bible regarding what we allow to enter our mind. "Mine house shall be called of all nations a house of prayer, but ye have made it into a den of thieves." We learned about building the map of reality into our mind with imagining by focusing our thoughts and energy into that which we desire to manifest. Next, we looked at God's warnings for avoiding plague and pestilence, which seems like a very good thing to know. The first part of the warning was to do with what we call the how-to traps, where a person tries and tries and tries to work out a way to make their desire happen, thereby interfering with the manifestation of their desire. The second warning was in regard to changing or modifying our desire to seemingly make it more easily achievable. We then started to work with our imaginary experiences, using the power of writing and editing to add in or subtract details to get our imaginary experience of our desire fulfilled very clear in our minds. We then did an imaginary experience session and learned the place of gratitude and thanks in the creative process. Workshop number 3. We started becoming aware of and observing the contrasts in our lives between our wonderful, inspiring imaginary experiences and our daily life. The contrast showed up as experiences with problems or issues and feelings, and we started to take responsibility for what we previously created, knowing that we can change it. We learned the fundamentals of revision and how to follow the trail of memories that we experienced in our lives to the root of our problem and then rewrite the story. We learned about assumption and that we must assume in order to have our desire manifest. We then set about defining our new character, how we show up in the world, and thought about what kind of qualities and attributes and skills we would like to have. Workshop number 4. In the workshop, we dived deeper into Neville's observation that there is no one to change but self, and we started to learn the fundamentals of revision and clearing work by learning about ourselves and our unconscious mind and how we operate. We learned that our unconscious mind really does contain the keys to our freedom in life, and it knows everything we need to know to clean up our past and program our future. What it doesn't know, it can get from the universal mind when we instruct it. We also looked at some examples of bringing imagination into our daily life by learning to play again. Workshop number 5. We started this workshop by learning about the concept of a perfect day and how the now is the only moment of power where we can make changes in our life. We learned about consciousness, ego, and about the programming and the behaviors that run in our lives. We learned about stories and how people have allowed their stories to run their lives. We learned how people either have reasons or results in their life. We watched some powerful videos with Tony Robbins and Dr. Nelson Bradley showing how easy it actually is to find and clear whatever is blocking us in our lives. Then we learned a muscle testing process to communicate with our unconscious minds, and also we learned what pivotal memories are. Then we learned a simple process to use for releasing trapped emotions and cleaning and cleansing our energy afterwards. We also noted that once again, absolute intention is key to imagining and manifesting, and equally so with clearing and revision work. Workshop number 6. Workshop number 6 was a bit of a breather as we covered a lot of ground in the first 5 workshops. So we moved our attention back to imagining and reviewed our imaginary experiences, and then went deep within with a group imagining session. Workshop number 7. In workshop number 7, we learned how our minds are imprinted with patterns of behavior that we observe, and how easily our minds can be influenced and misprogrammed by societal input. We learned about mental photography and natural learning, and we understood how we learn and why that helps us when we revise and clear the past. We reviewed the emotion and energy clearing process, and then we learned the deep dive revision and clearing process, which is simply following the emotions and memories back to our earliest memory and then revising those old memories with new imaginary experiences. 2 success stories from Neville's books come to mind as examples of revision work and which prove the transformative power of revision. In the first, a man who has an average wage begins his journey of revision, and he shares within 2 years his salary was equivalent to that of the President of the United States. In another story, a lady shares how she revised a childhood accident which caused her physical problems for almost 40 years, and through her revision she had a spontaneous healing that set her free forever. Workshop number 8. We started workshop number 8 with some reminders of the steps of manifesting, which are choose, imagine, assume, and then revise and clear anything which pulls us down and back into the old states of consciousness. And we noted how any undesirable experiences that happen in our daily life have a cause and need revising and clearing. In fact, we noted that if anything at all is pulling us away from our true happy selves, then we must revise and clear it. The workshop also had a pretty big Q&A session where I answered a lot of questions about clearing and revision for participants. We also looked at the 6 ghosts of fear, the 7 deadly sins, and other emotional areas of dysfunction, so that we can notice if we have any of those low-level, low-energy programs running, and if we do, we can clear and revise that old stuff. We also remembered that it is through truly knowing ourselves that we really become free. Workshop number 9. In this workshop, I shared my recent example of using the clearing and revision process, and then we had a Q&A session regarding clearing and revision and imagining. We then watched a short video summing up how clearing and revision brings us back to our center of power and energy and our true self. Then we moved into a slightly different area of imagining, which is using our imagination to help others. Having listened to some advice and success stories from Neville, we then put our quest to help others into action during the imagining session. Let's now look at a couple of pictures to help us further understand the essence of this journey of life we are living. As you look at this picture, meditate on the following words from Dr. Joseph Murphy. The means or the way in which our prayer is answered is always hidden from us, except that occasionally we may intuitively perceive a part of the process. My ways are past finding out. The ways are not known. The only thing man has to do is to imagine and accept the end in his mind and leave its unfoldment to the subjective wisdom within. Oftentimes the question is asked, what should I do after meditating on the end and accepting my desire in consciousness? The answer is simple. You will be compelled to do whatever is necessary for the unfoldment of your ideal. The law of the subconscious is compulsion. The law of life is action and reaction. What we do is the automatic response to our inner movements of the mind, inner feeling and conviction. He goes on to say, all of our external movements, motions and actions follow the inner movements of the mind. Inner action precedes all outer action. Whatever steps you take physically or what you seem to do objectively will all be a part of the pattern which you were compelled to fulfill. Accepting the end wills the means to the realization of the end. Believe that you have it now and you shall receive it. So in the picture we see two kinds of path to the achievement of our desires. The first is the ego's path, which is the path fraught with difficulty and is followed by those who forget or didn't know to heed God's warning of plague and pestilence. It's the path of push and struggle. The second path is the mysterious and wonderful path of our I amness, which is also paved with challenges, but is blessed with joy, happiness and success. Okay, so in this picture, this is how people generally do life, and there's really only two paths. There's the path of the ego and there's the path of the higher self, or the amness, the I amness, the inner guidance. So, we're in school and we learn all this stuff, we learn from family, we learn from society, we learn from the television and the movies and the videos and the newspapers and work and all that kind of stuff. And life tells us to go in a particular direction. It tells us that, get a loan, get a house, buy a car, do this, get a career, etc. And it says this is the easy way, so apply yourself to this. And we head off, trot down a certain path, and then we find that things start falling apart, and we get lost in sort of all the ego's programs that happens to people when they're asleep in the Adamic dream. And then they realise it, and they go, okay, I've got to change something. And they go off in another ego direction, then another ego direction, then another ego direction. And that's how life is for many, many people. Okay, the other way, the second way is, okay, we've still got all this stuff we need to deal with. We still were born into a family, into society, in the world, into the way that life is at this current time on this planet. So we still have a lot of stuff we've got to deal with. But we learn, we read the truth-teaching books, we read Neville Goddard, we study imagining, we start using and applying imagining and manifesting in our life, and we turn within to this inner guidance. And instead of taking that path, we jump off of where we got lost and we jump back onto the right track in life. And things seem to flow. And yes, for sure, we have challenges. Yes, for sure, we have mountains to climb and stuff to deal with and all the kind of stuff that people encounter on this planet, in the world at this time. But because we have the inner guidance, because our I amness knows how to get us to where we want to go, knows a path that's going to make us happy with a smile on our face, and we're focused on and imagining our desire, it leads us down the right path. And the right path is a lot more fun, a lot more joyful, a lot more happy. Okay, so moving on. This next picture shows an example of the journey that a person would experience when they imagine their desires. Okay, so in this picture, let's call this a typical path to the fulfillment of a desire. And we have the person at the beginning of the journey, and they've been imagining their desire, imagining their objective, imagining their imaginary experience that they're deciding to work with. And first of all, what happens is some clearing. Something comes up that needs clearing. So they do some clearing work, they clear some energy. And then they'll go on and they'll have a revision. So some old programming's come up, the way that they handle something in life, perhaps they've got a bit angry about something or sad about something or fearful or whatever about something, and so they do some revision, and they do some more clearing, and then they manifest a solution that helps them. So on the way to their goal, they're going to need some help and assistance. And what you'll find when you're on this imagining and manifesting path is that whatever you need in the how-to department is going to show up for you. And I've proven this myself time and time again. Whenever I need something, whenever I have a problem that I need to solve, the answer or the solution just, boom, turns up. And I know intuitively it's the right one, or I know where to look and what to look for. So a lot of people in the world, they get stuck in all of the how-tos. So they imagine their desire, and then they're on how to, and they get lost, and they buy loads of programs and all sorts of trainings and all sorts of stuff, and they get completely lost and off track from what they were doing. So you manifest some kind of a solution that helps you. Then there's a pivotal clearing. So they've done a bit of practice with clearing, and boom, all of a sudden they clear something pivotal. Then they achieve a goal. So you might have some little goals on the way to the achievement of your desire. And then they'll do some more revision and perhaps integrate a new habit, some new behaviour which is going to help. It might be in food, it might be in diet, it might be in exercise, it might be something to do with work, it might be, it could be anything. It might be a learning habit. And then they get to a point and something changes in their life. So they hit a point and boom, something changes in their life. And feeling more and more positive, enthusiastic, getting easier to assume what it is that they desire having in their life. They do some more clearing, new program, big consciousness shift. Okay, when you clear a lot of old stuff like that, you cannot help but have a consciousness shift. You cannot help but become more awake because you've cleared and revised the stuff which was keeping you in the Adamic dream. Okay, and then they revise and they review their vision. Okay, they have a little look. Okay, they're looking at their life, they're looking at their desire, having a quick review. How have I done? Yeah, it's good. Do some imagining. Right, I'm on track. Moving forward, some clearing. Another consciousness shift. More awake. Another solution. Clearing, goal, consciousness shift. More awake. Revision. If you're looking, this was done for a life vision. So if you're looking at a life vision, at this point somebody might add something to their life vision. If you're working with a specific desire, a specific objective, you're not going to modify it. So clearing, goal, big consciousness shift again, some more life change, goal, clearing, and then boom, all of a sudden, all the assumption comes into place. You really feel that you have what it is that you desire to have, or what it is that you desire to be, and boom, all of a sudden you get it, and it just shows up, and it comes out of nowhere, and all of a sudden you realise, wow, I'm really living this dream of mine. Okay, and then at that point you review, okay, how did I do? And you can review what you've done just so you know, okay, you're going to learn from your past. Okay, this is what I did right, this is what I did wrong, this is where I could have improved, this is where I blah 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 blah, and then you move on to your next desire, and you imagine and you energise that. Okay, so just moving forward now. The journey in this picture may take you a day or a decade, or anything in between. It all depends on you, where you are in your consciousness, what problems you have, what desires you have chosen to manifest to solve those problems, and whether or not you take action to change yourself. A couple of extra points to note. If you have an aligned objective, and you are imagining it regularly, and building sufficient intensity, then the path to the realization of your desire is created by the pure fact that you have imagined your desire and either knowingly or unknowingly achieved the Sabbath, which is the day of rest. If there is something that you need on your journey, it will present itself. If there is help you need, it will present itself. And finally, the desire itself will present itself. And remember, the law is no respecter of men. What this means is that we should proactively do what we can to change anything in our mind and behaviour so that we are aligned to the goodness of God. The revision and clearing side of imagining and manifesting is the area that most people ignore, and yet it is the one that truly gives us freedom from the past that we often unknowingly created for ourselves whilst we were asleep in the Adamic dream. And remember, it was that subtle past that delivered to us the often problematic present that we're seeking to transcend with imagining our desires. So the revision and clearing is a desirable and effective addition to our imagining and manifesting toolkit. And the two techniques we have learned here are very powerful and easy to use and highly effective. But like imagining, you have to use them in order for them to work. Also remember that if there is anything else that you need on your journey, it will present itself as a matter of fact of your intensely imagined desire. At the beginning of this workshop, I shared a story with you of when I went through my vision process and then imagined my desired perfect day consistently for about 3 weeks. At that point, an old friend, Stefan, I hadn't seen for about 5 years, showed up and invited me to come and have tea and meet his new girlfriend. I went to meet them, and his girlfriend, who has a gift of seeing in other dimensions, saw that I needed an energy healing and suggested that I come to visit with a Balinese priest who had healed my friend Stefan. For me, the energy healing from the Balinese priest was the solution that presented itself for the problem I was facing and that needed to be solved for me to manifest my desire. At the time, I didn't even know I needed an energy healing, and the thought of finding the best white magic priest in Bali had not even crossed my mind. The Bible says, "I have ways ye know not of," and it's so true. And what of your intuition? As you imagine your desires and you clear and revise and get to know yourself, you will find your intuition becomes more accurate. It will become easier for you to know the right directions to take when you move forwards, as they will feel more aligned to your desire manifesting. As Neville has said many times, things will happen so naturally you will think they would have happened anyway. You will be so compelled to make the right choices and take the right path. That's the way it works when you imagine to the point of feeling your desire is true and done, and you assume that it is so. And now we will move back to the teleseminar and continue with questions and answers, after which we will do an imagining session.